see you, Michael.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the second ever episode of From Field to Duel. I'm so happy to be here with a bunch of awesome people, Slippingbug, H2, Roxo, and myself, Burnside. I'm going to let everyone give a quick introduction because we don't have everyone's cams on stream. So, yeah, let's run through.
Go ahead, H2.
All right, I'll start. I'm just tweeting this out right now for you guys. So I'm H2. You guys kind of know me a little bit. I do some commentary here and there. I do some playing here and there. I do some content for y'all here and there. I'm just a guy. Just a guy in the community, man. Pokkén community.
Slip.
Yo, I'm Slippingbug. I am a player who plays Pokkén.
You're all vastly underselling yourselves.
Hold on, I got you, Burnside. Wait until the slip's done.
I'm a tournament goer. I'm currently playing lots of characters. I hope you like watching me on stream. Yeah. All right, your turn, Roxo.
Alright.
He's also like potentially the #1 player in A. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, Roxo, go.
Alright. I am the beginning, I am the end. I am the alpha, I am the omega. I am the god Garchomp of the North American scene. I am the mess. I can't even do it with a straight face.
Your father Pokkén.
I'm Papa Pokkén, you're right. Thank you for that nickname, H2.
Unbelievable. Awesome. Okay, so thank you for the introductions, guys. To keep us on track, so we're gonna be looking at Garchomp's competitive history this episode. And we're sort of presented with a really unique opportunity to look at yet another character that came to Wii U first, not an arcade character. So this is another character that North America really had the opportunity to define the meta early on and sort of set how one way that character could be played. So we're going to look at Boss Hog, Roxo, Coach Steve, and then also dive into how Bingy helped a Japanese Garchomp player named Bingy came about halfway through our story today and helped really turn the meta on its head. So, Roxo, do you want to sort of set the stage of this first Apex 2016 match?
Well, I've been going to offline tournaments like 3 months after being online, and then like for 2 weeks I went offline, and then Apex was coming up. I was like, oh, I'll go to Apex. I didn't know what top 8 meant, so I was just like, oh, I got top 8. I guess I'm playing until the next day. And this is basically the beginning stages of what an offline Garchomp looks like. This is the first offline Garchomp to top 8 a tournament, too. A major, I think. Yeah. Wait. Yeah. Coach Steve wasn't playing, like, anywhere.
Yeah, so this is, for people, we're about to watch 3 videos that came 3 weeks in a row. So Apex 2016 was in mid-June. Then we had CEO at the end of June, and then we're going to look at, so Roxo at Apex in Tri-State, then we're going to look at CEO, Coach Steve in Florida, though a Tri-State player, and the week after that we're going to go to Pokkén Nationals in Ohio with Boss Hog.
Quote-unquote Tri-State cough. But yeah. Man, look how young I was.
So
I know, man. That's a skinny Roxo there. Look at that man's in shape.
You call me...
maybe does someone want to sort of, Roxo, if you want to, or someone else, sort of run through what was happening with Garchomp at this point in time? Like, where was the meta at generally?
Does anyone else have Garchomp experience prior to, like, I guess, post Evo or no?
Not really.
I mean, I could just give you guys a heads up. It was basically Tri-State Garchomps are like, it was just me, Coach Steve, Puppy Havoc, which was online, and Boss Hog, which was also online. We kind of went back and forth with each other. Coach Steve basically taught us how to do the Dragon Claw to Tiger Knee combo, which kind of opened up the combo like paths for Garchomp. So it's at this point that it was just a beginning of It was the beginning of like trying to understand a character at Apex 2016.
So what
Yeah.
would you say is like your game plan when you sat down to play Madluck with Garchomp? What were you trying to accomplish?
I was trying to have fun and win, but I was just pressing Stone Edge because I knew that was OP at the time. But Mad Luck was just like, no, it's not happening.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
kind
this
of weird to think
iframe is
because
crazy.
you can like iframe stuff, right?
What was that?
Like it's kind of weird using it versus Gengar too, right? Because you can iframe out of the Stone Edge.
Yeah, he could iframe completely out of Stone Edge's range, and it was. I mean, I knew it because I played him a couple of times before at HBA, but I was just not prepared of the style that he was playing that day, which was kind of like campy. With like, if you see in field, you'll see him set up a Shadow Ball and just basically stay behind for most part.
Oh, okay. So do you guys want, or do you want to like quickly go over the buffs that Stone Age got? Because I know it got changed a lot throughout the history of Garchomp.
Throughout the history of Garchomp, I don't remember the first one that got changed.
It like comes out faster, I think, because it was really slow at the very first patch.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it got faster in the 1.3 patch, and then after that in DX, it got invincibility frames on it.
That one I knew. I didn't know about the first one. Then again, I didn't know much at the very beginning.
Yeah, going back in the day, I think everybody was just kind of like, all right, how do I play the attack triangle? You know, what can I do to bait my opponent? Playing somebody like Madluck, like we see here, he understands his character very well, and he's got invincibility frames, which just beat the attack triangle straight up, right? So I think I don't know, just like seeing this, I see a lot of Stone Edge, which has kind of fallen out of the meta in recent times, right? You're not grabbing so much, which is kind of different from how I've seen other Garchomps play just over our time.
Yeah.
But you've always been a very attack heavy and counter heavy Garchomp. You've tried not to rely on grab as much.
Yeah.
And why do you think that is? Like, why do you think?
Why do I think?
Yeah,
just
if you look
attack
at
heavy.
Garchomps, like you see that they're very, like Garchomp gets a lot of reward on all sides of the attack triangle, but you specifically shy away from one side. Why do you think you do that exactly?
Just like the less risk factor for that in my personal like play style. Just I'd rather not risk getting a like. For example, say I drop a combo, try to get like a nice reset against the wall with like a Sand Tomb. That gives you an opportunity to like fully punish me into a full combo that you could choose. And I just personally I don't like it. And like other Garchomps, obviously they like to do the Stone Edges and stuff, but me no, I'm not about that.
Yeah. So as I'm watching this, like you can definitely see, like if you look at Garchomp now compared to back then, the damage you get from Garchomp now is like so much higher, because like you're just doing like the basic Y combos, right? Which don't like, deal too much damage.
Mm-hmm.
I think that like helped a lot in terms of developing the character, like optimizing his combos. Because I know at the beginning of Pokkén, like Libre's combos weren't really optimized too well, and like her damage was kind of low because of that. But then, like after she got nerfed, like I looked into more stuff and then got her damage back up to par on what it was.
I was about to say, was it you that did the that combo, the 5YY combo, that made it? That's
yeah,
sick.
That was my like only contribution to Libre, playing her in tournament.
I think to Slip's point too, which is really interesting, is right now with the Apex, what we're watching is essentially you playing Garchomp to the best of your ability with a limited tool set. Can you talk to us, Roxo, a little bit about like what tools you didn't have at your disposal at this point in time, so we can use that going forward to like look at when new tools appeared?
Yeah, I really didn't understand. Again, like this is my first fighting game. I didn't mention that earlier, but this is my first fighting game. So I had limited to no knowledge on like what moves are good, what moves are bad and stuff. So I was just relying on like the basic tools, right? I didn't know that Tiger Knee was ridiculous.
Wait,
I
really
didn't
quickly
know...
too for viewers, can you describe Tiger Knee just so they know what you're talking about?
Sure. Tiger Knee is Garchomp's charge X move. It has 3 forms of it. But specifically Tiger Knee is when he does a short hop, instant jump into release X, which launches your opponent like basically sky high. Now you get a running stance combo or a JY combo or anything. It's just a combo extender. And it's a really good one, very optimal. Then there's the other tool I was going to mention was Release X, Standing Release X, which has Frame 1 Head and Bone. And you could just imagine, like, it's basically the equivalent to Shandy's 8Y, except without the combo ability. So that was a tool I was not utilizing at all. I wasn't utilizing 2X's low profile, and those are really like essential in Garchomp meta now.
And run cancels too, right?
And of course, I figure it as a staple at this point, but yeah, run cancels, the counterattack run cancels are basically a staple in the Garchomp meta now. They could go through certain attacks, certain projectiles, and absolutely punish. Like, for example, like if it breaks and throws out a Fire Blast, you can see AR counterattack run cancel through it into a Dragon Rush, which leads to a full combo, which is 273 damage. It's ridiculous. It's completely useful for just like making sure your opponent's like awake, because you know you can stay in neutral like forever, and sometimes you like go in autopilot, you're not really blocking, and then just a CARC to Dragon Rush, even though it's like you can see it coming, but like most of the time you will get hit. Maybe if you're not slipped though.
I think it's really cool to see how Garchomp was buffed by the players rather than by patches, because like essentially he gets, I don't know, like essentially he's getting new tools as people are playing him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of the few characters that I think that's true for.
Yeah.
You didn't see that as much with other characters.
Yeah,
and I'm watching this and I'm just like cringing all over the place. I can't. Whenever you guys were like saying, "Oh yeah, watch this back. Let's watch this and study," I'm just watching myself do 5X's like in neutral, and I just want to like die.
Well, let's talk about why 5X was so good. Because like when I first played against Garchomp, I got hit by that move a lot, and I know like it hit a lot of people a lot of times. So, like, what did you think about 5X early on? Like, why did you use it?
Early on, well, specifically against the Gengar, it was to deal with the iframes. Like, if you just saw on the stream right now, it was I 5X to his 6X, which completely beats out all the iframes. That's the only reason. I mean, that's not the only reason why I did it here, but that was the main reason why I was doing it, and also just an approach tool. But obviously, it's extremely punishable. So
yeah, I think like early on, like Garchomps could get away with a lot of punishable stuff because like people didn't know, and I think that's like one of the things that you really have to be aware of when you're fighting him right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because he got like knowledge like buffed and nerfed him at the same time, because you learn how to deal with all these abusable tools at the beginning, and then as the character is getting played better by the players, you have to learn how to deal with these new tools that are actually really good. So I think that's really interesting in how that develops. And yeah, 5X, like you were saying, it just has like a really good hitbox, and it goes pretty far, and then it's hard to react to at that time because most of us were just used to playing online. So yeah, I can see why that move was used a lot and not as much anymore.
Yeah, now it's just for specific matchups.
Right? For the most part.
What's up, HU? Will you repeat that real quick?
I think nowadays 5X has been mostly replaced with 5A.
Most definitely. You could run cancel. You can make yourself kind of safe with the right spacing of it. If you get caught, if they catch you and react with it with like a counter, you can still make yourself safe by run canceling jump back or run canceling stone edge or grab or anything like that. So that's 200% a better option than 5X.
Yeah. Do you guys want to move on to the next one?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're watching it right. I'm on the stream right now watching it.
Oh, okay.
It's very fluid, by the way, Burnside this time. So
Good.
that's a good. That was a good call. Downloading the videos.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear it. And I think quickly too, for like closing thoughts on that last set, I think that it's interesting to show that in juxtaposition with what we're about to watch now. And this is as much a testament to how far you've come as a player, Roxo. But Coach Steve is bringing like years of fighting game experience to how he's approaching the character, which at the time you didn't have, you know. So it's interesting to see the ways in which Steve is applying, like using the fundamental tools of Garchomp as a character that people don't always think about, to play against Catfight here. So like, Garchomp has incredible movement. In field phase, he has the fastest move speed. In duel phase, he has good movement options all around, like lots of strong movement on his different attacks. And I think that sort of is an undersung fixture of Garchomp early on from Coach Steve. I don't know. How do others feel about that?
Yeah, I think Coach Steve is just a player who like he knows what moves are good from playing other games, and like you can see him abusing JY. And JY is like, what do you think of that move, Rox? I think it's pretty good.
It's really good.
Yeah,
it's really good, especially against zoners, obviously, and it's very durable. It goes through most projectiles or trades with them.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, I think like early Garchomp Field, it was mostly like people just like going in and JXing, but I think it's developed a lot. I think Coach Steve is one of the Garchomps I played early on that had some of the most diverse field play, because he would use stuff like back Y, forward Y instead of just going in the air, doing like the unsafe JX.
Yep.
And he really likes forward Y because like he has good range, it's pretty fast, and it shifts immediately. And it's safe on a lot of counterattacks if you space it correctly.
Yep.
You can definitely see him using that move. And I think that's still like a staple of Garchomp play today.
Oh, it is. 200%. Coach Steve was watching one of my sets with Catfight, and I learned so much from Coach Steve, not only as a Garchomp, but just as a player in general. And one of the things that he said was that at the time I was just getting absolutely bodied by Catfight. And he said that I wasn't thinking of a way to approach. And like, that's why I'm losing. And I completely understand that. And Coach had it down from the get-go, it seems. Just like, think about how you want to approach any character in general. And we see that through the JYs, we see that through the forward Ys, and it's, I don't know, it was ahead of its time, honestly.
Yeah, you can really see how Coach Steve is ahead of his time, because he's using a lot more tools than you did versus Madluck, because he was using like the run cancels. Like he really likes doing a run cancel jump back, which is kind of like a staple baiting tool in Garchomp's play. Like backdashing with Garchomp is pretty good because you can backdash and then cancel it early into his, was it Dragon Rush, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like him abusing that is pretty cool. What do you think of his support choice? Because he's using a Molga.
Well, for Shandy, it's 100% like the go-to support. But in general, Amolga is just an S tier support, honestly. It's good no matter what character you use for it. As for Garchomp specific in other matchups, it's very good. Your opponent can't really move anywhere, so they're just gonna stay stationary basically while you try to force them to make an option and not unnecessary risk.
I know
Like
too.
with your run cancels, with your run-ins and stuff, and jump backs, and you catch them with JXs and stuff like that. Go on, Burnside. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say I know too that Steve really liked using Emolga early on because it reminded him of something from Marvel 3. So he just had a lot of comfort with Emolga from the start of using it to punish people who push buttons at full screen.
What did it remind him of?
It's some type of I wish I knew more about Marvel. It's a beam that someone uses in Marvel 3.
Wasn't it assist? Beam?
I don't know.
It was probably the Doom beam.
You should ask
probably.
Steve. Yeah, it's probably Doom. I think that's really interesting though, talking about Steve as like that Steve helped define like basically pointed towards you needing to find a way to get in, because I don't want to jump ahead to Bangy, but I think so much of the tech that Bangy would bring was about giving Garchomp more creative movement options that would allow you guys to get in more matchups. And fundamentally, Garchomp wants to get in and get in on your opponent in the corner. So it's interesting how Slip talking about the combo tools, how kind of all of these tools were slowly building and kind of came to a head. But that doesn't mean that players weren't able to find success early on with Garchomp either.
Yeah, no. So, yeah. I mean, you said it perfectly. So,
H2.
Coach's playstyle. I just want to highlight this. He's very patient as Garchomp, whereas in the last match we saw, Roxo, you were very aggressive and trying to push buttons a lot. Coach is really showing his fighting game experience by biding his time, and like everybody has said, he's really ahead of his time from a Pokkén perspective. He really had the fighting game fundamentals to bring to the table here, and I mean, we saw it. This is CEO. He went through more than one Chandelure in that bracket. He basically slayed all of the Shandies, from Abadango to Catfight to I don't even remember who was at CEO.
I think Angbad or Omagoma.
Omagoma, okay.
Yeah. There was 4 Shandies, I think, between 9th and top 8. He played 3 of them.
Yeah, and we've just he understood frame data at the time too. Like usually Garchomp's 8Y, his anti-air is unsafe, right? But he had no problem throwing it out on shield against Chandelure because he knew Chandelure couldn't punish it. So just you're just seeing ultimately a fighting game enthusiast and an expert fighting game player, pro player, put in work in a new game within a new meta. So he did a really good job of highlighting the strengths of Garchomp at this time, and setting up a good direction for you and others to build off of.
Most definitely, 100%. He was basically Father Garchomp, as we jokingly call him. He helped us with everything in terms of Garchomp play, and I probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. So,
shout out to Coach Steve.
Yeah.
I think something that's interesting too that I want to highlight when we look at Steve now, and I agree with everything you just said, H2, is that I think partially Steve's patience, I think I want to characterize as Steve treats his opponents who've earned respect with respect. And Steve isn't overextending unless he feels like it's a smart risk to take, and is utilizing movement tools and, like you said, frame data more so than the next Garchomp we're going to see, which is another really, I think, an interesting way to approach the character early on when people don't have as many options. So Steve in some ways is like the early version of what Garchomp would evolve to be one day, and we haven't seen that many Sand Tombs from Steve, you know?
I don't think we've seen one, honestly.
Yeah.
You'll see one. I've watched this game back so many times. You'll see the perfect time to use a Sand Tomb. And after all the times he never grabbed, after all the times his basic mix-ups, which is another thing I want to highlight, because I guess this early on of Garchomp, there wasn't really like any like creative thinking of how to mix someone up with your Sand Tomb cancels in the corner or with your CARC. with your counterattack run cancel. Sorry. So it was mostly just Sand Tomb cancel into the overhead. That was really it, or Sand Tomb cancel into Stone Edge. But you don't see that from Coach Steve ever. You just see the Sand Tomb cancel to overhead. So, like with as the Garchomp meta like progressed, we evolved it into making it with the Sand Tomb cancel to Tiger Knee, the CARC to Tiger Knee, the Sand Tomb cancel into Dig into Tiger Knee, Sand Tomb cancel into Jump Back to bait the option out. It's really evolved, and this is just like one of the options of the mix-up that you'll see in a corner. And like I think it's grown so much, because like as a staple, most Garchomps just use the Sand Tomb cancel in the overhead, but as we've grown, we just kept growing and growing our meta and our creative aspect of like how we can like are utilizing all our options.
Yeah, I think that's important to highlight. Utilizing all your options is definitely a big deal. One of the things though that's similar between not using your guys' options, you and Coach both kind of avoided grabs, though Coach is definitely, as we saw a little bit earlier, willing to grab in the corner, but both of you seem to hesitate against grab, and it's like you guys had an early understanding that grab is inherently risky. Coach definitely understood that, which is probably why he only did that in the corner for the mix-ups. And he really liked that he could keep people in the corner forever, and that's still the case. Like to this day, we see Coach Steve, when he plays his Garchomp, he will have no issue in the corner throwing out grab there in order to get that no PSP damage where he can keep you there forever. But yeah, just something to highlight. You guys both decided that grab isn't the option you guys want to go for, whereas, you know, at the time, other Garchomp players like Boss Hog maybe, and I don't know if Puppy Havoc so much, but some players were definitely a little more grab happy.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I love the fact that we're going over Garchomp, because it's so many different ways that you could play him, especially in the beginning. Even to this day, there's still different ways that you could play Garchomp. You go for optimal heavy, you go for reset heavy. It like, and you could still like place well with whatever style you choose. And that's why I think he's like a lot more unique than the rest of the, not the rest of the cast, because every character is unique in their own way, but like really sets him apart because you could play any play style you want with him.
Yeah, like Garchomp and Mewtwo, who we looked at before, the Wii U characters, not the original arcade characters, are like the beginning of this trend that we saw continued with the DX character, with Decidueye. You know, and then the new characters to us in DX, where the characters were getting complex and having more options. And I think Garchomp really shows like the beginning of that design philosophy towards giving the player lots of tools and lots of good tools and telling them, hey, figure this character out, figure out how these work together, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. I see that we're at the end of the CEO one on your stream, at least.
Yes.
So that means we're getting to my favorite person in the world, Boss Hog and Razin Ryu. Gonna see how that match. I'm just gonna let it speak for itself there.
Okay, I think so. To paint a picture for people who weren't around early on, Boss Hog was terrifying. Like the way that Boss Hog approached playing Pokkén Tournament with Garchomp was, you didn't want to sit down and play him because the mix-ups were so scary. The meta at the time, like people didn't understand all of the tools to counterplay Garchomp's options, and everyone knew the grabs were coming, but were also afraid to tech them because Boss Hog's philosophy to approaching the character was not patience, and it's something that worked really well in the meta. And I think Boss Hog is a great example of someone who found the optimal way to play the character in his time really quickly and utilize fear within the game to have that lead him to success. So had some really key, really impressive early on top 8s that really established him probably as the
top chomp at the time.
The top chomp in the world, yeah. Like even come NEC, You had been getting a lot better. Coach Steve was still around. But when I sat down to breakfast with the Japanese characters, everyone was afraid of Boss Hog. You know, like Boss Hog left a huge mark on the meta early on.
It's understandable. His playstyle was totally out of the world of, I think, Japanese meta, and the way, like, just look at it like this: Garchomp, heavy damage causing character, 660 HP, pretty fast, has moves that could get in easily. It's extremely scary. So for them to say that everybody was afraid of playing Boss Hog is totally understandable.
Yeah, Boss Hog kind of played by the numbers, I feel like. You highlighted the HP. HP in terms of Pokkén, 660 is the highest, so the character has the highest amount of HP. And he has really strong mix-ups when he plays that RPS game like he's playing right now, throwing out Stone Edges like that. Well, in advantage.
Yeah.
Bizarre at the time, but, occasionally it would work. So that said, with all the damage that he has, all the HP that he has, it's like, why not force 50-50s all the time? Because whether you guess right or wrong, you have so much reward, you have so much HP that it just pays out for you in the end. And at the time, it really did.
Yeah, just like in terms of probability, it's in your favor if you choose to play it that way, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to like the Japanese players, and this was like really early on when I was watching Evo, and one of the Japanese players told Potochin to use Libre versus Garchomp, because Potochin himself was like worried about Garchomp because he was a new character, like they weren't really sure how to like fight him, and like one of the Japanese Libres had like theorized that Libre is pretty good versus Garchomp. And it just really shows like how strong Garchomp was early on. Because I think even though like he's always been looked at as like kind of a low tier character, I know like a lot of people think of him that way. Like he definitely had the results early on to show that he was very prominent.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty. I didn't know about that story, Slip. That's pretty cool.
It's interesting too because it helps like solidify the fact that Garchomp was early on very much a North American character, and it wasn't like there was an established answer for how Japan was going to play against North American Garchomps. You know, it took them a while to figure it out.
Yeah,
I need to talk about the support because I can't. People who like ask me questions in the Garchomp Discord or any kind of like thing. Why don't you use Yveltal? I don't know. Personally, this is my personal preference. I don't like it, but here we're seeing that Yveltal is being used like 100% appropriately, either as a defense tool just to catch them like reacting to a button, or during a combo to keep them locked out of burst. This is when the patch happened that basically made Yveltal like a top assist. Oh wow, I didn't even know about that interaction.
I think something important about Yveltal is that early on people weren't optimized at getting their burst fast, so locking the other person out if they had a faster burst was really important. Like I know, like while talking to Coach Steve early on, he would never use his burst early, and that's because he was like, Garchomp only gets one burst. But nowadays you can definitely see him getting like burst in the first round if they play correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Like synergy cheer. So I think burst Garchomp is something that we need to talk about later. But yeah. And also another thing I noticed in this set was that Santum went like
through Ninetales.
Yeah, through Ninetales basically. Because
fully charged Santum can do that. Even partially charged if you space it correctly. But Santum has its own hitbox, and like that's also a good and a bad thing. It's mostly good, I will say, because you've seen the jank that happens with it, like against Snivy or against Yveltal or any of those supports. It just trades with them, puts Garchomp in a stun and keeps the opponent in a longer stun because it goes through. It's like anticipating, oh, you landed the Sand Tomb, I'm going to take it through the animation now. So, Sand Tomb, like, Boss Hog is really showing the strength of Sand Tomb at this point, because me and Coach Steve never really used it. So
Yeah, the Sand Tube special was like something that I always looked out for when I was fighting Boss Hog, and I noticed like in this set he's using jump a lot, and I think it's like important to point out how strong jump is with Garchomp, because like he has the nosedive that he can do, and then he also has like his JX it's pretty good. I know you think it's
how
really
good is it, Slip?
I mean, I don't think it's that good, but that's because I play Libre. But
All right,
it's harder to anti-air with other characters.
it's the best. All right, I will personally say it's the best JX in the game. I think so personally.
I think combined with Garchomp's jump,
That's pretty good.
yeah, because Garchomp's jump like stalls him in the air, kind of, but it's also like kind of fast.
And it hits
Well,
like you wouldn't expect it to hit you. If you're like air to air with Garchomp, you'll expect the air move to come out first faster, but nah, Garchomp's JX will hit you. It really will.
I agree
and-
that bouncing is really good. Like it bounces you if you're in the air, and you can get a combo off of it.
Yeah. So I want to make sure to keep us moving, but couple last thoughts on Boss Hog. I think last week we talked about artist versus science as how you approach Pokkén, and I think Boss Hog is a great example of someone who's a 100% an artist, and used that to great success early on. So we're not going to look at it, but Boss Hog with top 8 at Nationals, and he would also go on a couple weeks later to top 8 at Evo. So
how many people? How many there? 1,000 people there?
Yeah, the biggest Pokkén tournament of all time, over 1,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of view Boss Hog as a scientist, believe it or not, just because he played by the numbers. When I look at it, I view it as him playing by the numbers. Even his support pick, he picked Yveltal, as in when he gets people guessing, it's an I win option. Even if you trade, you win. So I think of him more as a scientist, because it seemed like his play style was, okay, let me abuse all of the numbers of my character, as opposed to let me try to win by conditioning people.
Yeah.
But I can definitely see the other side of that too.
No, I think that's a really interesting take on it, and I can definitely see where you're coming from as far as what looks like now as conditioning, maybe in the time, like what you're saying, was a numbers game, and that is, yeah, perhaps like I'm not giving Boss Hog enough credit for how he thought through his game plan, which is definitely a characteristic of the scientist. That's interesting, H2. It's cool.
He was definitely an artist in my view, but more of an artist than scientist. But he definitely had his reasoning behind his things. It wasn't all just like in the heat of the moment, or like it was all. He does think about his options when he's in certain situations.
Yeah.
So now we're gonna completely go into probably 100% scientist, in my opinion, which is basically the inspiration of what Garchomp meta is today, Bangi.
When did so Garchomp's meta had been plodding along in North America, settling into somewhat of an RPS style. That's the Garchomp that was getting the most success. When did you first see Bangi, and can you talk us through like how you saw him, what you saw, and how that helped you realize what you should do, like the whole story, and when it happened?
When it happened,
Yeah.
all right. So when was it? I believe it was right before Rumble in the Tundra of 2016. Madluck was looking up Taro, which is a Gengar player, which is in Japan they revere him as the best Gengar in the world, but like nobody knows. All they know is Sasa and Apollo. But that's besides that. He was looking in Nico for videos of Taro,
Yeah.
and there was a video of him versus some Garchomp named Bangi, and Madluck watched it and he was like, "Wow, Bangi is doing some really interesting things," and he was like, yo, Roxo, watch this stuff. He's doing some really interesting things. I watched it, and I learned so much from it. I learned the CARCs. I learned the 2X. I learned Tiger Knee in neutral is ridiculously overpowered. I learned Release X is ridiculously like a really, really good move when you at the right time. And I learned a lot more about like field phase approaching from this one, from this character, because like it's not. Oh man, I'm just like watching early CARC into Sand Tombs, like right now from this match. I'm loving it. So yeah, dude, like at Rumble in the Tundra, I wasn't able to utilize most of his tools because I was still new to like the options that he was presenting me. But at Canada Cup, I used the optimals and Bangi. Luckily, Azazel and Elm were there because some of the Japanese players watched, and they saw me doing the Bangi optimal combos and all that stuff, and they were giving me some praise, and I was just like, I was extremely happy. So it was like, it opened up the meta. It opened up my eyes to like a totally different way that Garchomp can be played, and I never looked back on RPS Garchomp.
And would you say it's an exaggeration that that there weren't more than 10 videos of Bangi playing people that fundamentally changed the way you and everyone else would play Garchomp forever? He has like I believe like 15 or like 13 some odd videos of him and Nico before Double started uploading all of Toritawa, which I can't show enough gratitude towards Double. Thank you for that. Yeah.
But it was basically those 15 videos that I watched like it was a religion, to like learn like what he's doing and how it's so different and why it's working at this point in time. And like, it's just I try to implement it as much as I can into my own play style, and it's just been an evolution ever since then.
Yeah, like he pretty much buffed Garchomp in the sense that he gave Garchomp a real neutral to play. And he like really developed the pressure game as well with the run cancels. Like when you watch him, it's like what like this video, when did it happen that we're watching?
This is SGT Cup, so I think it was towards the middle. It's like July 2017, I think. It's like this summer. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, this is like more modern day Garchomp.
Yep, this was I mean, I was trying to find Nico stuff of him, but like I don't know where my message to Madluck went. But if the Twitch is watching this right now, I'm a little delayed on it myself, but I saw the CARC into Dragon Claw to Tiger Knee, and to go through in a projectile or just to approach, I forgot which one it was, but that's exactly like the kind of stuff that I wanted to implement into my play style, and how like him showing me a certain option has opened my eyes, and then I try to make other people realize this with Garchomp, and I slowly began to like open people's eyes on like what Garchomp can be in North America. So
yeah, like if you look at it, Garchomp has some like really strong moves. Like let's just talk about like the Tiger Knee and like why it's so strong. Because one, it's a heavy, so it can clash if you hit another move on the same frame, you can clash and beat it out. It goes over low mids and lows, and like most of the moves in the game are low mids or lows, right?
yeah.
Like essentially the only way you can really beat it in neutral is if you like counterattack it, or if you guess anti-air, right? Because it'll go over like your fast lows and low mids, and if you block it, it's plus. So it like essentially is the starter for Garchomp's pressure. So there's like really not a reason to not throw it out, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Mewtwo's instant air dash JY. It's just it has
It's
that
just a pressure tool.
Yeah, it just has that property where it goes over stuff. I think that's really strong in Pokkén. Like if you look at characters like Libre's 8A, Lucario's 8X, stuff like that, it's just really good. Uh, what else? Yeah, just like Garchomp's jump. You can see like that's been a consistent thing throughout the videos we've watched. It's just because it's such a good tool for baiting and like going backwards. Because his backdash is kind of slow and his walk speed is not the greatest in Duel. So you definitely see him jump a lot more in Duel than in Field, whereas his aerial options are a lot worse in Field. But he does have JY, which is pretty good.
In Field, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, you definitely see like Garchomp's walk a lot more in Field than in Duel.
Yeah, and they have the fastest walk speed in Field, one of the fastest.
Yeah, so you can definitely see like Garchomp's like the best of Garchomp's movement tools being optimized. I think it's cool how Garchomp has like a lot of long range moves for how slow he is in Duel. I think CERC lets him really abuse those as well.
It's a good baiting tool too.
Mhm.
People like to press an option as I'm like running towards them, and then like something to beat it out. Like you do it at the right times, but then like other Libres will just like throw out a wild charge even when I'm not throwing out a move. I'll just CARC, and then I see a wild charge. I'll just jump back JX into a full combo. So it's a good baiting tool.
H2, any thoughts on Bangy and how Garchomp changing with this influence of Japan's meta?
Yeah, I mean, just when you first start seeing the things that CARC opens up, not just CARC, just like even the Sand Tomb cancels into Drill, right? All of these things that you can cancel into, you just realize that, okay, this character does have tools. Because like Slipping Bug said, nobody really thought Garchomp had a neutral because Boss Hogg's playstyle was so prominent up until this point, where it was basically, okay, Garchomp doesn't have a neutral, but when he gets in, he 50-50s you to death. And because he has more HP, he just wins. But, you know, this really turns that on its head. So just like, it's just impressive to see that there was all this hidden potential in this character. And like Slip said, the players really were the ones who would end up buffing the character more so than updates.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's another thing I wanted to point out is that like he's using side Y and then canceling into his A moves. I think like that's something that I noticed recently that Garchomps have been doing.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't know. It's really cool. Like I think like watching how Garchomp developed really inspires me to develop any other characters that I play. I think like a lot of the ways I play Scizor is similar to how people play Garchomp. Because essentially like what he does is he runs at you and then does something, right? And then when he runs at you, like it instills fear into you. Just for like whatever reason it may be. Like some people are scared of like the mix up. Some people, I don't know. It's just like when something is running at you with that much damage potential, it just forces you to do stuff, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of how like my philosophy when I play Scizor. It's very similar to how Garchomp is being played, I think.
No, I totally see it.
Yeah, and then like essentially like Scizor's like hover dash is like a better version of Garchomp's run cancels. So
yeah,
it's really cool how the characters like Scizor is like advertised as like a mid-range character, but it's cool how he can like take inspiration from a character like Garchomp and do well with it as well.
Totally. So, yeah, 100%. I think that's really interesting too. How I don't think a lot of people view Scizor as being a mix-up, as being similar to Garchomp in this ways. Should we move on to DreamHack though?
Yeah. We'll move on to was this DX? No, right?
No. This is Wii U, yeah. This is DreamHack 2017, so this is this May, Slip?
Yeah, this is like late April, so early May.
We're seeing right now Coach's Weavile, but he will be switching to Garchomp. And this is a long time. What was May, right? So actually, I was in Keibo when this was going on.
Yeah.
In Japan, learned a lot there. But this was at the time that I've kind of adopted some of Bangi's like play style into my own play style. But this is still Coach Steve's Garchomp, which he wasn't really one. Coach Steve's play style is very I don't really know the right word. It's just his own play style where it's just he does his things. He does the things that he knows works well.
Yeah, he notices the moves that are working, and he like tries to abuse those. I think.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely like he doesn't. I don't think he plays this game too often nowadays with like all the other games he plays, but he definitely just plays the player at the fullest. Do you guys want to skip ahead to his Garchomp?
Sure.
Yeah. Because I think it's really interesting how like every time Coach has played Twixie, he always goes Weavile first and then switches to Garchomp.
At SCR, he's I mean, when he was in losers, he made sure he was playing him in losers finals all Garchomp.
Yeah.
I yelled at him, like in the, not in the chat, like in the tri-state chat. I just yelled at him like, why? He was just like, I don't know. I forgot what game I was playing. I was like, man.
You can also see how he's like Garchomp's field Oki has really been developed from what it first was. Because if you get hit by what's it called? A back Y that's charged, it's like very
Plus
tough.
8. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like +8. Like if you block it, you're like +8. So
like, what are you gonna do? You're either gonna predict a homing, in which case you would counter, or you would try to just block and hope you don't get grabbed.
yeah. Whoa, that was
That was a weird. Yeah, that was jank. Coach is utilizing he was utilizing it well in Catfight's match in about a year ago, actually. Since when this came out, but he's been utilizing running stance into. I saw him do a Tiger Knee. I saw him do his Dragon Claw into jump back JX. Like this is post Bangy, basically post Bangy era, I like to say, but he's still using his original stuff, and it still works. That's like the beauty of Garchomp, I think, because you can still pick a playstyle with it, and it will still work.
Yeah, I think that's like the case for a lot of characters in Pokkén. There's a lot of different styles that you can use and implement. But yeah, he's really spacing out with the CAs a lot more because I don't know, early Garchomp they didn't really use their CA, but nowadays since you can like get a lot of good punishes off of it, they use it a lot more in neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, is this the legendary part? Oh no.
No, that's losers finals. We're watching this is DreamHack, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah, this is the time where he does it.
I think it's the next game. Yeah.
Okay.
The next game, yeah. Oh, that's okay. He didn't do that in Catfight's thing, but that move right there, Twitch is gonna be behind a little bit. Where he does Dragon Claw into instant burst. That like has evolved within itself. He found that out that you could just do that. It's a quick confirm. Like you could do it from not full screen. You could do it from like close to mid far, like mid full screen. Hit someone just with the tip of it and go into instant burst to confirm and get huge damage off it. And that's evolved into hitting that to a Sand Tomb reset to get even more damage. Like he implemented that, and that's like I don't know. Coach Steve's so much ahead of his time, but like now it's kind of catching up with him because
There's a lot of strong chomps.
Yeah.
A lot of the similar stuff. I just wanted to talk about like burst Garchomp real quick because I noticed whenever Garchomps go in burst, they like usually go in like full ham with the 5A. Why do you think that is? Like, do you just think is because like the threat of burst is so scary that you're able to go more offensive.
The threat of burst being a red armor move, it does weigh into like why it's so scary and stuff. Because if we see you counter, we'll just burst at you. If we see you get hit, we'll burst at you. If we see you block, there's a chance that we could just Sand Tomb you to catch you. And then that's a burst confirm in itself. It's like that's why Garchomp's so aggressive with it. I think.
Yeah, I think it's also because like Sand Tube in mid screen, like normal Garchomp, you don't really take that much damage. But when you're versus Burst Garchomp, it's kind of like the Charizard factor where he has this grab that if you get hit by, you take like 300 damage. So it's just like the numbers really work out in Garchomp's favor. He has 660 HP. You can delete your life bar in 2 hits. You have to hit him like 7 or 8 times to even do anything. So it's just the risk reward is so in your favor regardless of what you do. That's the way it feels like, at least.
That's definitely the science behind it. Definitely.
Yeah.
Like,
so like, what are some things people can do to like try to mitigate burst Garchomp?
Stay in range and abuse your most abusive heavy option, and honestly, just react. Like it's easy to say, it's hard to do. I know, but like, you could react to Sand Tomb. You literally have to be on the lookout for it, which is I know in itself hard to do, but like. Garchomps will just keep trying to attack and attack and attack you for their burst confirm. Make sure you get them into field, because in field they have a lot less options than they do in
I think
duel.
that's an important thing. Like I've actually done this a lot in tournament when I'm fighting like a strong like grappler burst character. I always try to keep them in field when they have burst.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
No, that's what you're supposed to. I feel like that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. Like even if you land something that would shift, I think it's better to, depending on like the time and everything, it's better to keep them in field.
Yo, Burnside, what do you feel about Garchomp, Twixie versus Coach Steve, that match in particular?
That match in particular? I think it's really interesting because here I'm going to pause this video for a second and we can finish talking about that and then we'll move into our last video of you versus Scats. Steve versus Twixie at DreamHack is really interesting because I think Coach Steve's really the only person who's made a compelling case for the fact that Garchomp can be a counterpick character. And partially that's just because Steve is good at playing lots of different characters. But my thoughts on that matchup specifically are Garchomp. It does a really good job of emphasizing the fact that Garchomp has a wide array of really powerful tools. Which allows the player who's willing to play a mental matchup versus their opponent to do that really well. That match was all about Steve understanding Twixie's habits and patterns, first when he played him with Weavile, then in his first game with Garchomp, and then like the apotheosis of that is that legendary moment at the end where he digs 4 times in a row and hits 3 of them. So I think that match specifically, I like to point to as an example of how generous to the player Garchomp is. Because some characters like really pigeonhole you and say, this is how you have to play this character to succeed. And Garchomp doesn't do that. Like you were talking about that too. Every single good Garchomp in North America, still to this day, like, and there's so many, there's players like Puppy Havoc and Smash Steve, who we aren't watching today, and all of you play Garchomp slightly differently. And I don't think that's true of every top level character out there. No,
that's totally understandable. It's not the same for like say like Lucario or I mean, is it the same for Libre Slip or not?
No, it's the same for Lucario. Lucario you can play poke heavy, Lucario you can play rush down heavy.
Oh yeah, you're right. I forgot Success is a pretty good move.
2Y is also a pretty good, but that's another stream.
That's another video.
I feel like the character that's like the most that hey, if you play this style, you'll have the most success is definitely Mewtwo.
Yeah.
We talked about that already though, right?
I know, but like nowadays, if that makes sense. Like Mix 2 was very strong early on, but it's definitely a lot worse like nowadays because of one, the damage nerfs, two, just because of how people are ready for it as well.
That's a truth, honestly. It is true.
I don't know. We'll see if Swallow ever makes a comeback.
Yeah. The meta would have
See how
welcomed him back.
Julie is. Alright, so we're gonna get into Scats versus me at Talia Beach. This is probably is it the most recent Pokkén event that happened? Yeah, right?
Not
Yeah.
quite. The most recent major. Yeah.
It is the most recent major,
Yeah.
I chose this video because I utilize Release X a lot, like coming up into this, and Charizard is one of the characters that you'll see like this is like the perfect character to Release X on for because he's always in the air. Like it's like a like I don't want to say a free anti-air, but like with a frame 1 anti-air that I have, it's like hand in hand, you know?
You want to tell people the ABCs of Garchomp?
The ABCs of Garchomp? What you mean by that?
Always be charging, baby.
Oh, you're right. I forgot. You're right. Always charge your X. Definitely.
Yeah, you like literally have it charged all the time. And I saw you land a 4Y, so I just want to point that out to everyone that's watching. In DX, Garchomp can run cancel his 4Y, and I think that really buffed his neutral a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Because it gives him like a really safe poke on shield.
And you can just always be plus, man. If nobody ever counters you, you just 4Y into Tiger Knee all day. 4Y Tiger Knee, 4Y Tiger Knee. Loop it until their shield's red.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Man, I like just talking about Garchomp and Pokkén DX. Like, I didn't think it was going to be that much of a buff, the 4Y buff, because everybody was like, "Oh no, the Dragon Claw scaling that happened." He got a little nerfed, believe it or not. We were all worried about that because the combo did nearly 300 damage in the Wii U version, but now only does 273. We were like, oh, 4Y is not going to mean that much. But you see me do 4Y like 3 times in like 2 rounds, like to start a combo. And you see me do Tiger Knees to like just to throw out there in neutral. Like, and you see I'm fully charging, like, I don't know. I feel like the meta has grown so much for Chomp and the double JYs. I know Burnside likes that.
Yeah, I love the wall carry that you're doing with like the JYs and how you're like splatting them and then continuing your mid-screen combo. I think like a lot of characters have developed that, but you can definitely see that on Garchomp. And yeah, there you see the backdash into 5A, which is really good.
Mm-hmm. That was a really optimal combo from Scats. I'm sorry, I had to say that. But yeah, we also saw there's still like the obvious like I want to say Boss Hog style, but there was like an obvious like no mix up, just straight up Sandtomb in the corner style that a lot of Garchomps have just like implemented nowadays. I feel just like, why not just Sandtomb in the corner? Like, Boss Hog has it down to a science, but like, I have it down as conditioning based too. So, like, I don't do that, honestly. I don't do it that often. So that's why I was just like pointing it out.
Yeah, I think something really cool about Garchomp that I noticed like early on is that he doesn't really have any counter pierces on his moves, but players have found really good ways to beat out counterattack. And the way Garchomp plays with all his plus moves on block, it's like, hey, you don't really want to block versus him because like if you keep blocking, he's just gonna be plus and that makes you up, right? So he kind of wants to force you to counterattack or try to guess the grab and tech it. But he has a lot of good ways to stuff your counterattack with, especially like JX in field. What's it called? 5X is pretty good at stuffing, I think. 5A is pretty good at stuffing.
5A is really good, yeah.
Yeah, JX is good with stuffing. It's just like has a lot of good ways to beat out counterattack with besides grabbing you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a really cool way that Garchomp has developed. I don't know.
No, it
Totally.
is totally.
Yeah, like I think if I were to ever play him, that's like the kind of style I would try to implement. Is just like continually B plus, back up, see if they counter, and then do something to punish. Because like that's essentially like the way I play Libre like up close. Is that like Libre has like 8A, which is super plus, so you force them to counter or do something, and then you punish it. I think that's like the style that you kind of do with Garchomp as well.
I tried to implement it the best I could. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
H2, you were there. Oh, what's up, Burnside?
No, go for it, and then I'll chime in after.
H2. How do you feel as though like from obviously the beginning to like now that you see like Garchomp, like me, or just like in Garchomps in general, doing CARC, just like try to bait out stuff in neutral. Do you see it as like a totally evolutionary like advantage that we have now, or is it just like?
It's definitely evolutionary, right? Because initially, if you think about the early meta was let me mix you once I'm in. Now you're like, okay, let me mix you while I'm out and get you to do something because I want you to react so I can react to your reaction. Because right, you can backdash out of it, you can jump out of it, and then you can give yourself time to see if you can whiff punish something, which I think is really cool. So you've added layers to the neutral, and it's very bait heavy, right? But at the same time, once people show that they're not going to react, what you guys end up doing is you guys end up going, all right, now we can rush in with our Dragon Claw, and then you can start mixing from there, or going into your Tiger Knee or whatever in order to put yourself into a plus position, or you can even jump over or jump out. It's like you have so many paths that you can take. You just have so many options. It's I think you're spot on. It's very different from what was early on, and I think we'll continue to see more of that going forward.
Yeah, I think his jab mix-ups are really strong, and then you even kind of have a version of that in field where you
I
do
would just
like,
neutral Y.
yeah, neutral Y into sand tube to like beat out counterattacks, stuff like that. Which is really cool. Do you know if 5A is what's it called? Plus in field? I actually don't know.
5A in field.
Yeah, like can't you do 5A into
Running stance.
Tiger Knee? Yeah, in field. Can't you do that? Or is that not a thing?
I really wish that'd be really busted.
Yeah, that would be really strong.
Hey, Pokemon, Pokkén, if you're listening to this, take Slip's idea, please, because I actually want that. Burnside, you were gonna say something though.
Oh, you kind of took the words out of my mouth and sort of asking H2 to sort of conceptualize where the meta's at now. I think we've been going at it for a little bit over an hour, so I know we wanted time for a few viewer questions. Then we definitely want to get ideas on who we want to vote in next. But does anyone want to give sort of like last thoughts on Garchomp as a character? I guess, yeah.
I will actually go first because I have a lot of strong thoughts on Garchomp. Honestly, like I've always viewed Garchomp as like not that great of a character, but I'm probably biased. But honestly, after seeing like what he can do in DX and like all the cool options he has, I think his tools in a vacuum are very strong. But there are a lot of matchups that give him trouble just because like the tools some other characters have seem to like counteract Garchomp's strong tools. But I think like as Roxo has done, as like other people have done, if you play Garchomp, you definitely can top 8 stuff with him. He's very, very strong. So that's what I think.
H2.
I think Garchomp's top 5 at this point.
Who do you think he ousted?
Who do I think he ousted?
Yeah.
Honestly, like top 5 right now in Pokkén is like 7 characters. So
I agree with that though. I do.
So I think he's really good. I don't have a great understanding of his matchup spread just because I feel like his neutral is so dynamic. And I feel like just the matchup for Garchomp is going to be like player preference almost in terms of what people feel comfortable with matchup wise. I know that like for the longest time people are like, why don't you like fighting the champ Roxo? Why do you think that's such a terrible matchup? And now you're like, oh man, 4Y is the truth. So I don't know. I think kind of matchup wise, it's kind of player versus player type thing, and I think that in and of itself is like proof enough for me that Garchomp is, definitely a top character in this game.
Burnside.
So my closing thoughts on Garchomp. God, I think Garchomp. I'm really glad Garchomp's in Pokkén, and I think, like, if I'm talking to new players, I want to talk to them about the history of Garchomp, because I think Garchomp does a really good job of emphasizing that the more you're like in Pokkén Tournament, which is a relatively simple game, Garchomp tells like I said earlier, tells the player to play the character how you want, but also the history of Garchomp is the history of players like being dedicated to the character and unlocking new potential. And what I think is most cool about Garchomp, especially because of 4Y buffs, is that story's not over. Garchomp and how you guys are optimizing how you play him is still happening. And that's true with a lot of characters, but I think it's especially true with Garchomp. So I'm just really excited to see what you guys continue to do. The new stuff that you continue to figure out with like side swap combos off of 4Y and the reverses, because in some ways Garchomp's gotten scarier because his ability to corner carry has gotten so much greater. You're now in 2017 Garchomp, if you're in mid screen, you don't want to get touched. And in 2016, you could afford to get touched if you weren't in the corner. So I'm excited to see how far you guys can take the character as far as creating situational and positional advantage, and turning every matchup into a player versus player matchup.
Yeah, I think Garchomp is definitely one of the more deeper characters in this game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, he just has a lot of depth.
Absolutely.
And, like, I don't know. I don't play characters with depth, so...
Whoa.
Like, real talk, I'm going to be honest. I feel like all the characters I play are, like, pretty simple.
I mean,
that's your opinion on it. I'm not going to say you're wrong on your opinion.
Top player NA, folks.
as
Like, this is what Azazel said, too. Like, when you play, like, a character that's, like, simple and has, like, simple execution, you can, like, think about other stuff during the match.
True.
So, I don't know. I feel like it opens up room in your brain for other stuff. That's just my insight. I'm sure, like the depth that Garchomp has is really rewarding, so I think that's a really cool reason to play him. So, yeah.
Roxo, any closing thoughts before we ask for a few questions?
Not. I mean, you guys all just basically hit it on the head. The only thing I could say, I mean, I'm more of like, look at the match and I'll analyze like why Garchomp's good, like where his strengths lie in certain things, and like how just like the threat. Like if you're watching a stream right now, you'll see like Scats trying to bait out a release X by flying in and out of flight stands and like moving back and forth with the movement and stuff. Like Garchomp has like so many frightening tools, but you can't show him too much respect or he'll like abuse it. But then like you're afraid that if you overstep that freaking boundary, that you're gonna get punished and you're gonna get half your life taken away from you. Like it's definitely like a unique like thing to be playing against. And as a player of Garchomp, like I don't know, I never viewed Garchomp as a low tier, so that's just my mindset of it. I always thought he was like really, really, really good. So
yeah, I think the one thing that's holding him back is like he doesn't have burst every round like Zard and Machamp. Machamp doesn't get burst every round, but it's like very possible.
He gets a lot quicker.
Yeah, I think if Garchomp was like 200cc, he would definitely be top 5, like hands down.
But now he's only arguably top 5.
Yeah, because there's a lot of other strong characters.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, real quick, you should say what you're going to say, but chat, if you have questions for us, for Roxo, send them in now, and once Roxo's done with what he's about to say, we can get to him.
Oh no, I have nothing else to say. All I know is that half the chat that's watching are all memer kids, so they're gonna be like, "Roxo, are you gonna finally win a major or something with Garchomp?" Because that's one thing that Garchomp has still yet to do. Unfortunately, with all the top 8 placements around like the world, because Bangy has now top 8 at certain events. Smash Steve has top 8 at some things. Fuwig is all right, he won a major. I mean, was it really a major? I don't know. Either way, he won a tournament.
Are you talking
Like,
about Pokemon All?
Is that it? I
Yeah,
don't know. You made a graphic. For
That was I wouldn't call that a major, but it is an example of Chomp winning a tournament, which is cool. Really, Chomp has won 2 tournaments in the history of Pokkén.
Yeah, only 2.
Two notable tournaments, and that's you at Guts 4 and Fuwig at Pokemon All, which is like this small UK event with like half Pokkén players, but more than 30 entrants during the Dark Age. Yeah. But it still counts.
It still counts.
Yeah.
If you look at it, not that many characters have won like a huge event. It's mainly like Mewtwo, Machamp, Braixen, and
Shandy.
like
Lucario, Libre.
Don't forget his Dao Ito, man. Gardevoir is the truth.
Oh yeah, Gardevoir, I guess.
We'll get to that. There are some questions right now. Whichever one you want to take, Burnside, at first.
Yeah, you go for it, Roxo. Why don't you read one out?
How trash is my Chomp? I don't know. Chomp hasn't won majors. He won 2. I mean, if you count them. Where do you see Garchomp going into the future next season is a good question, because I don't know. If you're talking about this current season, with players that are coming up, like Puppy Havoc's starting to go offline a lot now. Boss Hog's still going to be going to events, even though he's playing Scizor mostly now. Orlando Fox is making her debut at a major at NEC. Sai himself, my official protege, I like to call him, because he was like, yo, like he had the mindset of everybody else. Garchomp's trash. Like, all he is brain dead. And I was like, there's a lot more to the character, dude. I sat him down, and he was in such amazement of like how to do the basic Tiger Knee combos. And now he's evolved into probably one of my most proudest projects. Converting him into just completely converting him. And RP over in whatchamacallit? Oh my god. UK. Her Garchomp is taking inspiration from me, Sai, Puppy Havoc, and all that stuff. And her Garchomp is definitely no joke. So I think Garchomp will be like kind of like a staple in most top 8s now. You'll see at least 1 or 2.
Strong Garchomp players. Like usually when you I don't know, when you think of like a character, you think of like these certain like a few players that are like at the very top. But with Garchomp, it's like there's a lot. Like I think of you, and then they're like right behind you. There's like 6 other people. You know,
yeah.
I think that's really cool.
I see Garchomp in a lot of top 8s in the future.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wait, Luffy asked a question about Libre and Chomp.
Yeah.
I think Libre is still Chomp's worst matchup. What do you think, Roxo?
Your Libre is Garchomp's worst matchup.
Suicune though.
But in my opinion, Garchomp does lose 4 matchups, and it's Suicune, Machamp, Libre, and what was the last one?
Gengar? Or no?
Yeah, Gengar.
What about Darkrai? We have someone in chat saying, Rochambeau in chat said, from what I've seen, Darkrai seems to be Chomp's worst matchup. How do you feel about that? Like, how do you feel about the Darkrai matchup?
I don't think it's, I feel as though it's kind of like, how Garchomp had to evolve around, Gardevoir's, like set play, Chandelure set play, Suicune set play to an extent with the waterfalls and the jump back water guns and stuff. It's all we have to figure out a way to get in. Obviously, we lose against Suicune, but we destroy Gardevoir and Chandelure now, and they're both heavy zoning set play characters. I feel as though it's just a matter of us understanding how we have to approach them in field and in duel. And once we figure out a safe way and an effective way out of doing so, that we'll see what the matchup really truly lies, as opposed to it being one of the hardest matchups.
Roxa, we gotta have a talk about Garchomp versus Suicune. I have some theory crafting for you to try.
Okay, that sounds good.
Wait.
How about that?
When are we doing it? Can I come?
You can definitely come. You're not coming to NEC. That's all good.
Do you think like Darkrai having the not having the mirror as easily makes that matchup a lot easier in field, or what?
I actually kind of think it's a lot harder now. I don't know how new that 2X is. Was 2X a thing in arcade?
Oh,
I mean,
back
back X, yeah.
Dude, that move is really annoying. It's like actually Darkrai's best move in field, which is really
Yeah, that's exactly why. And to do that, and they took away mirror, which was easily like you get around it with Snivy. You could totally erase all of Darkrai's projectiles with Snivy. And now it's just, and the most like prominent move they would use is mirror. So when I was in Japan for Keibo and I was going up against Midori, I would just activate mirror with like my neutral Y, and then I dig under it. Dig under the jaws that are coming after you. They don't track that well. And that was my way around mirror. But now mirror is not as easily like set up. Well, you can't easily set it up anymore. So it's become a completely different matchup that we just have to basically learn.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so any last questions, and if not, who do you guys think you want to tackle next time? / chat, throw us your ideas.
Yeah, throw out ideas, chat.
So who did we first? We first did a balanced character, right? And now we technically did a grappler, although he's a grappler that's not necessarily played like a grappler.
Yep.
So what do we have next? Zoning?
Yeah, I would say do zoning.
Okay, so options there. Shandy, Gardevoir, Suicune technically,
Darkrai.
Darkrai.
Breaks
I
it.
think Sceptile is kind of a zoning character. I don't know.
Yeah, you could put
Sceptile is definitely a zoning character.
It's like mid-range / zoning.
Lots of people asking for Sceptile. I think.
Oh, Sceptile's good because of how prominent he was early meta.
Yeah.
All right, let's do a poll though. We
Yeah.
did it last time.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so we'll throw up Sceptile. Who else should we throw up?
Chandelure.
Chandelure. Okay.
And Suicune, I guess. I mean, do you consider it a zoner or do you consider it a balance?
So
Burnside.
that's it. I think that question would be a fundamental question to the episode, which would be really interesting, because how Suicune's been played and how I think Suicune can be played going forward are really different. So like season 1 Suicune, zoner. Season 2 Suicune, failed zoner. Season 3 Suicune, like balanced mix up